Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zicree of Space Command. My dog Rudy is still missing, so if you can put out the word far and wide, it would be hugely appreciated. He is our dear, sweet little mixed terrier, neutered. Has a microchip, no collar, because he pulled free of that when he ran away from the dog sitter. If you haven't seen my previous Mr. Sci-Fi video that features Rudy, please check it out. You can go on my Facebook page or Twitter or any other number of places and find out all about our little lost dog who's been gone. Tomorrow will make it 2 weeks, and that's of course a long time for a little guy to be out and about. So, but being Mr. Sci-Fi, we're going to talk about some other stuff because why not? We hope we get our dog back, but also, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, first of all, I'm in my World Science Fiction Convention t-shirt, pretty cool, and I've been watching Strange New Worlds and the Orville, and interestingly enough, I had lunch yesterday with Neil Bannon. He created Farscape, Alienation, Sequest, Defiance, Cult. He executive producer on the show Evil, and we're pals from way back, and we're creating a show called Sweet Haven together that we'll be talking about very soon. And we were talking about Orville, we were talking about Star Trek, talking about how you structure a story, how you tell a story, what makes a story important, what makes it trivial, all that stuff. All the stuff the writers talk about when they get together. So, we'll get into that another time, maybe even do a dialogue with me and Rock for you guys at some point. I think that would be a lot of fun. But now I'm going to talk about Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 3, in which Lan Noonien Singh goes back in time with Jim Kirk and has an adventure in the 21st century in Toronto. Now, I liked it better than the first 2 episodes of the season, and it's very interesting because people who are watching the season who are ahead of me say, well, it's going to go way downhill, you're going to hate it. And then some people say, well, no, this last episode was great, it was real Star Trek. We'll find out, we'll see. But this episode, I had some challenges with it, and let's talk about it. Where to start? I like the actress who plays Lan. I think it's interesting that she's descended from Khan Noonien Singh, otherwise known as Ricardo Montalban, who appeared first in Space Seed, the episode of the original Star Trek, and they talked about the 1996 war, eugenics war, and he reprised that role in Wrath of Khan, which I think is my favorite Star Trek movie, though there's other ones I like very much. So, okay, so here's the problem with trying to maintain a consistent timeline when the first series that has canon took place, 60 years ago. The problem, of course, is that when they're projecting the future, they're projecting 30 years or whatever, and now we're looking back at that year. It's like, hey, wait a minute, 1996, there was no eugenics war. What happened there? And so now Strange New Worlds is trying to explain that or cover it or account for it. And it just gets your shoelaces tied together. It's really, at some point you just got to say that was a show made back in the 60s. This is a show made in the 2020s. And get over yourself. But anyway, but again, the problem is there have been so many Star Trek TV shows, so many Star Trek movies that if you try, it's a very fine line to walk where you're creating new and meaningful stories while also trying to tip your hat and pay homage to what's gone before. When I came up with Far Beyond the Stars for Deep Space Nine, I think I managed that balancing act because I wanted to show where the science fiction writers who made Star Trek came from. That they were all writing for pulps in the 50s, Ted Sturgeon and Matheson and Beaumont and, Harlan Ellison and on and on and on. Beaumont didn't write for Star Trek, but he did write for Twilight Zone. But these guys, there would be no Star Trek, there would be no Star Wars without the guys who were writing for a penny a word, back in the 50s for the love of it. Anyway, that was sort of the initial notion and why science fiction was important, why creating a future of inclusivity was important. So that's, that's sort of the thought process, because Star Trek gives you a great opportunity to do meaningful stories. Challenge with a lot of these Strange New Worlds episodes is it has the right look. It has the right cast. I think most of the cast are great. I think that having 3 feisty brunettes who are sort of kind of filling a similar niche is problematical. Roddenberry did not do that in the first Star Trek pilot, The Cage. He had number one as a female second in command. It was, you want to not have too many characters or have them fulfilling a similar function. It's whether they're male, female, whatever they are, keeping them very distinctive from each other is very important. But that said, again, I like Lahan. She was at the Star Trek convention I was at in Vegas. I didn't have a chance to talk to her, but I would have liked to have. I think she's talented, and I think she's interesting. I like her British accent. And so here's a number of things. Okay, so basically the thing begins where a guy with a gunshot wound dressed in 20th century clothes or 21st century clothes falls out of a doorway on the Enterprise. He's a time traveler. He's gone back to the 21st century to stop the timeline from being screwed with. They've kind of dealt with temporal division in other Star Trek series and other Star Trek episodes, but anytime you get into time travel, you're going to have a problem. I think that Harlan did a great job with City on the Edge of Forever in terms of time paradox, time loops, all that. I think he was able to get away with it and get out, without his hair being mussed. But this one, okay, let me walk you into this. So the guy gasps out, "Get to the bridge," and hands her the time travel device. And she thinks he means the Enterprise bridge, but when she gets there, the timeline has changed, and there's a bridge crew that doesn't know her, including Captain Kirk. There's no Starfleet. There's no United Federation of Planets. It's a different timeline. Spock is on a Vulcan ship. Everything's screwed up. So she manages to get Jim Kirk aside, and the two of them go into the time travel device, or they utilize it. It's a little wand kind of thing, and they find themselves back in the 21st century. Now, let's talk about the actor who plays Kirk. There have been a number of actors who play Kirk. First, of course, amongst them, William Shatner, and then Chris Pine, etc. And Kirk, of course, William Shatner is the definitive Kirk, of course. And it's very interesting to compare him with Jeffrey Hunter, who was the original Captain Pike, because Captain Pike was much more serious, much more tamped down in a certain way. I love Jeffrey Hunter. I think I loved the first pilot, but Kirk had a brashness and a humor and an insolence and an arrogance, and he was a womanizer, and many of his worst qualities are what makes him interesting. And but he brings an energy to it that plays very well off Spock's, solemnity, seriousness, and Bones' emotionality. So he's a different flavor of ice cream than the other two. And I liked Chris Pine because I thought J.J. made a good choice casting him, because he could play that kind of brashness and impulsiveness and all of that stuff. So he's not Shatner, but he's a very, very good actor if you've seen any of his other movies. And he does a very good job with that first J.J. Abrams movie. Okay, so now we get to Strange New Worlds. And the actor who plays Jim Kirk, it was very interesting. I saw him and Shatner talking to each other when I took my photo with William Shatner at the Star Trek convention. And they were having a very good conversation. Shatner's 92 and he's standing on his own 2 feet and he's talking. You'd never guess he's 92. Maybe you think he was 72, I don't know, but he was clear-headed, enthusiastic, and he was talking to the other actor with respect. I mean, it was very much, he was not being arrogant, he was not being dismissive. There was a certain connection and a certain mutual respect, and clearly the young actor was in awe of Shatner, as would anyone be who has been shaped by Star Trek. But that said, so the new Jim Kirk, I don't think he's a great choice to play Kirk. He's either in the way he's written or in the actor. The actor seems like a nice guy, but he's a little bit scrawny. He doesn't have a great physique from the little I saw of his physique in this episode. Lon looks at him when he takes off his shirt and it's like hubba hubba, but I didn't see that particularly. But he's not charismatic. He's not driving it. Kirk, is a character who is always seizing the moment, trying to take first position. He's very competitive. He's very resourceful. He's Jim Kirk, and so in this he's kind of playing second fiddle to Lon. He's kind of not taking the initiative nearly enough, not as much as Kirk should be, and And so that was a big problem for me. And he and Lon have this love story, and there was no chemistry at all, none. It was just kind of like writers decide that they're going to fall for each other, which is why I always like City on the Edge of Forever, because Edith Keeler, not only is she beautiful, Joan Collins, but she also is talking a philosophy of hope for the future in dark times, and Kirk is drawn to her heart, drawn to her soul. And it's one of the few times in Star Trek that Kirk actually is attracted to someone, not just because they're dressed in revealing clothes. I remember Jay Leno once joked about the original Star Trek. Each week it was a journey to the planet of the space hookers. So, but anyway, I digress. But in this episode, there's so many wacky things. And, Strange New Worlds is shot in Toronto. So for once, they don't have Toronto doubling for New York or some other major city. It's actually Toronto. And I'm sure that the writers were thinking, oh, that's going to be fun to be able to show Toronto as itself. Okay, fine. And, they basically are following a trail. And many people have commented on the fact how ridiculous it is that they throw away their uniforms and steal clothes. In the old days, BS&P, Broadcast Standards and Practices, would have had a note about that. Well, in City on the Edge Forever, when they stole clothes, they had to have a line about, well, we'll pay them back, and it's kind of facetious, But that was because the censors said, well, don't want them stealing things. But okay. Be that as it may. But here's the problem I have with them doing that. They're in Toronto. It's cold. Obviously, they need jackets, heavy jackets and hats and so forth. Well, but essentially, for a 21st century audience, theoretically, or people on the street and theoretically in a universe that doesn't have Star Trek, because obviously everyone would be saying, wait a minute, you're wearing a Star Trek uniform. This is theoretically in a world where there was no TV show called Star Trek. Given that, they're basically wearing tunics, long sleeve tunics, shirts, and black pants and boots. So that's something you could actually get away with on a Toronto street. People might kind of notice the little insignia or whatever, or a little bit of something, but nothing would seem. They're not in spacesuits, for God's sake. And so all they'd really have to do is get jackets, maybe caps, if they wanted to keep their heads warm, and that would be it. They don't have to go the whole hog and get entirely new clothes. It would work. What they're wearing would work. And so just, okay, fine. So then they find out that the Romulans from the future are messing with the timeline. There's a girl who's, claiming to be a sort of a conspiracy theorist. And there's a fusion plant that's going to be sabotaged after a bridge is blown up. The whole idea is to stop humanity from venturing out into space. And it's sort of, well, Damon Knight, one of my teachers at Clarion, who bought my first short story, talked about the idiot plot, where everyone has to act like an idiot for the plot to work. So it's sort of like, okay, well, she and Kirk are gonna fall in love, and why is that? I don't know, but they do. And they're going to encounter this girl who turns out to be a Romulan. Now, she has long hair, and she talks about, well, she hasn't gotten used to the ears yet. Why does she even need to have her ears altered? She's got long hair. It covers her ears. So, that would work. And in City on the Edge of Forever, Spock just wore a cap. And certainly in the cold weather of Toronto, she could have been wearing a cap. No one would have thought anything of it. So that was kind of wacky. And then they have everyone trying to stop this fusion plant from being blown up. And so, but it doesn't get sabotaged. It just happens coincidentally, again, the idiot plot, that Khan Noonien Singh has an office right there at the fusion plant. So he's part of like some kind of genetic experiment at a fusion plant. It's like, what? It's like, okay, well, fine. Let's go to the rocket launching platform and look at a biological experiment or whatever. It's this apples and oranges. So, it's okay, but... And then they discover that Khan is a kid. It's sort of like, well, how's that work? Why is Khan a kid? Because he couldn't be in 1996. And maybe there's some other episodes that have explained that. But it's like, it's the gag. If you went to kill Hitler and you encountered him as a kid, would you be able to murder this kid who hadn't done anything yet to anybody? And the answer is, well, yeah, you should, considering what happens. But, she doesn't kill Khan. And, of course, if she killed Khan, she theoretically would cease to exist anyway. But, okay, fine. And then the other, so it's an interesting episode. It's wacky. It's not strong, Captain Pike, he hasn't been doing much this season. They say, well, the actor wanted to spend more time with his family, which sounds ridiculous to me. It's 10 episodes. I mean, good Lord. Captain Pike should be much more dominant and driving things. I mean, come on, really. And again, there's this issue of nobody is following military protocol. And that's because in the original Star Trek, Roddenberry was a bomber pilot in World War II, and a lot of those writers, Richard Matheson was in the infantry. Many of them had been in the military coming off of World War II, so they got it, whereas I think this new generation doesn't. Then the other gag was, well, they don't have any money. How are they going to survive? And Kirk goes, and he's a chess wizard, and he beats all the chess sharks, all the chess hustlers, and he wins money. And that seemed a little dissonant for a moment, because it seemed much more like something Spock would be able to do. But then I remembered, and this is minutia. This is Star Trek trivia questions. I remembered in the second pilot of Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before, it opens with Kirk playing Spock, three-dimensional chess, and beating him. So that does sort of track, given canon, given the history of the show. But it's still, was a little bit out of left field. Anyway, so that's some of the twists and turns of this thing. Long story short, of course, in this one, Kirk gets killed. He gets shot and dies in that timeline. But when Lon fixes the timeline and goes back to her world, Kirk is alive, and so is his brother Sam, who died previously in this altered timeline. And so there you go. And but she's sobbing because the Kirk that she fell in love with died, and the new Kirk ain't the same guy, basically, I guess, even though he seems like the same guy. Okay. Well, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, and again, I think the younger generation who did not grow up on the original Star Trek was not part of that decade. They're going to be interpreting these shows completely differently than someone like me or some old Star Trek fan or whatever. And again, every film and TV show you see, and every book you read, and everything else you encounter is a meeting between you, where you are in that point in your life, and the work of art. And so, if you loved this episode, if it's your favorite episode of Star Trek, that's fine. That's fine. I have no need to have everyone agree with me, as I often say. But often these new Trek shows, I mean, they feel like they're just moving the pieces around. And I wish they were going deeper, digging deeper. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it's beautiful sets, beautiful costumes, talented cast, no two ways about it. And we shall see. But anyway, I just wanted to chime in about that. We'll be talking about a lot of other stuff in the days to come. Please check out the post I did on my dog. And if you're in LA and can keep an eye out for him, that would be terrific. If you can post about him and spread the word, that would be terrific. 2 weeks is a long time for him to be missing. We hope he's okay. We hope we'll find him again. But there's no telling. So that's about it for now. Thanks for everything, and we will talk again real soon. Bye, guys.